In the last couple of years, one of the most controversial things that we've discussed on this channel has been Turkey's citizenship by investment program, now available at a lower price than it was initially, as well as the real estate investment required to qualify for Turkish citizenship. Now, today I want to set aside the issue of the citizenship itself, whether you would want to be Turkish, and merely address why I believe that real estate in Istanbul in particular is perhaps more worthy of your consideration than you might have imagined. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and here at Nomad Capitalist, we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best, whether it's offshore tax planning, citizenship planning, or investment planning around the world. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And I just returned from a trip to Istanbul where I met up with several of our contacts in the real estate industry, looked at a lot of different properties, and found some very interesting opportunities that I think are the kind of thing that people watching should consider. Again, let's set aside the citizenship by investment program for a moment. If you're interested in that, we've got plenty of videos and articles on nomadcapitalist.com about Turkey's citizenship program, where you invest roughly $250,000 into property or put $500,000 in the bank to become a citizen. I think it's a worthy option to consider for anyone looking at a citizenship by investment program. I also know a lot of people have told me that they just feel kind of uncomfortable with the idea of being a Turkish citizen. So let's just talk about investment for investment's sake for a moment. And certainly the Turkish lira has performed very poorly in recent years. You know, what's interesting to me is that you don't want to catch a falling knife. But I also realize that, if you listen to people like Doug Casey, for example, who went into Hong Kong at a moment of great chaos, you can be very profitable. Will the lira continue to drop? Perhaps. I know people who believe that it will start to slowly rebound. I know others who believe that it will continue to go down. What most people are looking at in 2021 is a drop of the US dollar. And so I think that that might be an opportunity if you're holding dollars to potentially get into a market where, whether you want citizenship or not, there could be some opportunities for profit. Because I believe that, due to some of the geopolitical issues, which are probably overemphasized in the West, I'm not saying they don't exist, but certainly people sitting in the West and watching CNN are probably more likely to think negatively about a country than people who are actually going and experiencing it. You have some good deals. Prices have gotten beaten up, not only in dollar terms due to a lira decline, but they've just gotten beaten up, especially with the pandemic. But let's go over some statistics for why I think as a long-term bet, as well as potentially some short-term plays, Istanbul makes sense. Because if you look at Turkey, Turkish mothers give birth to about 1/3 more children than their German counterparts. They are reproducing. There are now a population of over 82 million people in Turkey. 16 million of those officially, probably closer to 20 million people live in Istanbul. And so anytime I look at some of these mega cities, anytime I look at cities like Istanbul, like Cairo, like Moscow, like Mexico City, when I can buy real estate at cheap prices that rivals markets that few people have heard of and that don't have the demographic benefits, like Tbilisi, for example, Phnom Penh, Cambodia, I think those are good markets to invest in. I've done very well investing in them, and I think there's still some juice left in them. But Istanbul, for example, is an entirely different animal, where you've got this great domestic economy where, despite everything else, they've done a good job building up their domestic manufacturing industry. They now have brands, and if you live in some of the places that I do, like in Georgia, like in Eastern Europe, you see some of these Turkish brands. You're buying a lot of Turkish products, and the quality of them has actually become pretty good to where when I do a renovation in this part of the world, I almost always look at Turkish products. I've seen the hassle of buying the name brand Italian products, and I want to buy the Turkish product. The quality is generally relatively equivalent. I get it a lot faster. It's a lot more efficient. And so you've seen this manufacturing base build up, where what that's led to is a decrease in net migration out of the country. In 2018, net migration from Turkey was down more than 40%. Before that, in 2017, for example, the numbers were more reasonable, something like 7%. In years before that, similar. So fewer people are leaving Turkey. Historically, many Turks have gone to Germany, have gone to the UK. Obviously, we have helped some people from Turkey who don't want to pay the moderately high taxes on income from running a business in Turkey. We've helped them move somewhere else, but that's generally a relatively small slice of net migration. Most people are going to find better jobs, and in Turkey, you've seen, while the lira has dropped, you've seen wages increasing, you've seen more opportunities coming up if you look back over the last 20 years, to where while Turkey was once very eager to be a part of the EU, Jim Rogers has said at some point they realized what he realized, which is the EU needs Turkey a lot more than Turkey needs the EU. And so you've seen all of these additional jobs, you've seen the growth, and you have this country that I think is very geographically well located. People can talk about Syria, they can talk about Iran, but you've got a country that's at the door of the EU, certainly has had, to the consternation of many in Europe, some influence over EU policy. Whether that's right or wrong is irrelevant as an investor. You're also close to a growing region in the Middle East and North Africa. And so I think that there is a strong case to make for this. And so let me talk to you about one particular property that we looked at recently. We called it, because I like to give things names, we called it the Big Unit. This was a property that was right on the main shopping street in Istanbul's Nişantaşı shopping district. This is where a lot of the wealthy people live, a lot of the international people live. You've got a lot of people who are very international minded, etc. Wealthy actors, wealthy whatever. And so you're on the main shopping street. You are a little bit above it, so you don't have so much noise. You're 7 floors up. And we're looking at a unit that, while Turkey does quote their prices they quote properties as gross. You get a title in gross square meters. So that would include your share of the elevator, the stairs, the common areas. It's kind of weird. But we figured out by measuring it that the property is about 185 square meters. And we were very quickly able to negotiate their price down from 2.5 million lira to about 2.05 million lira. And so with the decline of the lira, we were looking at about $260-some thousand. And so what that came out to is less than $1,500 per square meter, roughly. I'm giving you rough numbers here. Less than $1,500 a square meter. Now we've seen markets such as Phnom Penh, where you've seen a lot of Chinese demand in Cambodia, going to Cambodia, buying condos halfway out to the airport for $2,000 a square meter. Now, our friend Reed at Investation is still buying stuff for under $1,000 in the city center. That's because he uses Cambodian company. It's not cheap to use. And so the average person buying one property is not going to be able to buy what he's buying, and you're going to have to pay more in a much smaller market with much smaller domestic potential. In Tbilisi, we've seen some of the markets, not so far from Istanbul, we've seen some of the properties in good but not the best districts start to flirt with that $1,500 number before the pandemic. You'll see a little bit of pullback now, but because they're sold in both those countries in dollar terms, I think less pullback. And so when I can pay, I think by my calculations with the exact numbers, $1,478 a meter, I'm in the main shopping district, and arguably the best district, where if you look at property prices, even as the lira has dropped, you've seen them have a relative degree of holding their value. Not perfect, but relative degree of holding value because, in dollar terms, because of the demand to live there. For the same reasons that property in Caracas and Tehran is not being sold for $12, you've seen these desirable areas hold on to their value. You go further afield, you go into the areas like Esenyurt, which have been widely over-promoted, Bahçeşehir, which are kind of far away. I've been looking at this market for real estate for about 6 years. There have been a lot of bad areas promoted, and when you see people coming in and buying properties for citizenship, they buy the glossy magazine stuff, they overpay, they're getting new properties. But for these older properties, here's a property that needs some renovation, that if you look at comparable properties, you could make, I think, a relatively quick, 5, 6, 700,000 lira profit if you don't want the citizenship, which requires you to hold the property for 3 years. Or you could renovate it and turn around, make 6, 7% yield with a US dollar lease. Someone paying you in dollars because of the quality of the property, you would get that kind of tenant. So you're getting dollars secured. You have moderate taxes on real estate rental income in Turkey. It's relatively easy to handle compared to many European countries. And you can resell the property at a profit in the future. While if you want to hold on for the long term, benefiting from these demographic trends. When I talk to people in the investment business as well as in the citizenship business, and we say, look forward 20 years. Is Turkey going to be a stronger country or a weaker country? I think we all pretty much agree it's going to be a stronger country. Are there some challenges now? Of course there are. But for me, a lot of the investments that I make, I'm planning on making for decades to come. And so if I'm looking at these trends, it's going in the right direction. I'm open to hearing comments, and I'm sure many people will disagree with me. I'm also not saying to take everything out of stocks and sell all your U.S. real estate and put your money in Turkey, but I'm saying for a fraction of your portfolio, and perhaps for a unique second citizenship to add to your citizenship portfolio, there are some numbers that lead me to overcome the challenges which may be temporary in the country itself. And so I think that these numbers make me think that the prices have gone low enough. You have a market that has a lot of built-in potential. More people will be moving to Istanbul and to the cities, whereas in Western countries, you're seeing a movement away from New York, away from San Francisco. But with jobs being created in a different type of economy, especially one that's growing, I see more people moving to these cities in search of higher wages. It is not as much a work-from-home economy. It may become so in the future years, but you will see more people living in Istanbul. And if you look at some of the deals that our people have done over the last year, I think they've been very successful with this model. Those are the reasons why I think it's at least worth considering. You can weigh the pros against the cons. I think that too many people in a market like this focus on the cons because they hear Muslim. When I first took Mrs. H to Malaysia, she said, Muslim country, I'm afraid. Now it's her favorite country in the world because she realizes how nice the people are in Malaysia. Not the same, country, not a direct comparison, but if you're only, saying Muslim country, Islam country, saw this guy, I don't like him on CNN, I think it's worth considering the actual numbers as an investor, potentially the citizenship as a kicker, as a backup plan, something worth considering. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.